through enduring hardships. The tears of pain I shed today will be the tears of joy I shed tomorrow. The brave never fall. We rise and maintain balance through freedom and connection. I'm Coach mjdtiger, life coach and mentor. Helping others find their passion, peace, and purpose in life brings me my passion, peace, and purpose in life. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Welcome to Vibes. Time has little meaning when true peace is present. Those moments seem to go in a flash, yet simultaneously last a lifetime. I think about this when I am in a moment of really appreciating the magnitude of the moment that I'm in, no matter how insignificant it may feel to other people or even to myself at times. Time slows down when I'm at peace, which is why I gravitate towards meditating daily, because time seems to have no meaning when I'm lost in my thought, in my feelings, in my emotions, really putting the pieces together of my life in that moment, not so much focusing on the past or the future, just what's happening now. And when I do that, time really does have little meaning, because I can go anywhere I want within my headspace, within my heart, throughout my body, spiritually. I can go where I want to go. But in that going, I am also very appreciative of what I'm going to return to when I'm coming out of my meditation. When I'm back in front of the people that I care about, doing the things that I love, in the places that I enjoy being at that bring me comfort, these things seem to last a lifetime. In those moments where you can grab onto the things that are special to you, that have true meaning to you, not just things that you feel like should be a part of your life, but things that are essential to your life and to your life purpose. Those moments are what I look for. Those moments are the most important moments, and they're the moments that go by each and every second. And if we can tap into that, when you can tap into that, when you can tap into the moment and allow time to slow down, you find there are spaces in there that you'll get lost in. And that's a good thing, because you can get lost in the best feelings that make up the best parts of who you are in your life. How are you feeling? How are you feeling mentally, within your mind? How are you feeling physically, throughout your body? How are you feeling emotionally, within your heart? How are you feeling spiritually, within your soul? These are questions I ask myself morning, noon, and night. Before I lay my head down for peaceful and powerful sleep, I ask myself how I am feeling mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. These things help me get through every moment of my day, throughout the day, and definitely throughout the night. So ask yourself now, in this moment, how are you feeling? It's more rewarding to push forward when we could reap the benefits of rest, peacefully sleeping through stress, releasing the demons off our chest. Best to be exhausted through purpose, rejuvenated through tests, than to be content within darkness, harping upon past regrets. Yes, the road has many pathways. No, the choices aren't easy. Yet despite all the crossroads, life continues to teach us. No matter how far we're off course, it continues to reach us. Our life stories are blueprints, innovation daily of self-engineering. Anything less than elevation will always be beneath us. Daily innovation is what we should strive for each and every day. Innovation within ourselves, those blueprints that we create within ourselves, that we can go back to, restructure, relook at every little corner and examine them and improve upon them. Daily innovation of ourselves. Anything less is truly beneath us. Vibes, Episode 7, Happiness Hidden Under a Mask. Typically with this, I have been, over the past few episodes, sharing a short story under the temp title of Will and Autumn, and I decided I was going to go ahead and add in a story every single episode, all the way up to episode 12 of this particular podcast series of Vibes. And then I realized, well, what if somebody watches episode 12 first and listens to the end of the story, and somehow the story is ruined for them because I have finished the story and I was going to go into a spot in the story where if you listen to it out of order, it would really confuse you or spoil the story in ways where I didn't want that. So I didn't really think ahead in that. So if you've been listening to the prior stories and you're looking forward to hearing the rest of them, I will be sharing that story in its own short story format after the conclusion of the Vibes 12-part podcast series here. So it'd be sandwiched between this podcast series and the next podcast series that's going to come out. And if you're interested in hearing that story, it won't be continued with each episode here as promised, because if somebody did jump in, which people don't watch all these in order, I don't want them to feel like they missed out on something by getting it spoiled for them, because the story itself, the way that I ended up concluding the story, it is very emotional, and listen out of context with it just robs it of all the emotion and the meaning behind it. And I was very pleasantly surprised by the ending of the story. I never write my stories out in advance. I always just write them as I go along, as if I'm a reader reading it for the first time. I write it like that. And I'm very excited to be able to share that with you. After the conclusion of this podcast, it'll have its own video. It'll be its own little short story audio book form, and you can check out the rest of that story there. But let's get into the message of this particular video, Happiness Hidden Under a Mask. Excuse me, I'm recovering from the bit of influenza. So my voice is a little strange, and I apologize for that. But the point of this particular podcast that I really wanted to dive into is that we can always find who we are when we start to dig underneath the layers of our flesh. I mean, not in a literal sense, obviously, although there are people that do take that literally, and they will harm themselves to try to get into themselves deeper, to try to figure out what they're really made of. We all hear about people who, harm themselves in order to get a sense of an emotional reaction from what's going on around them, how it affects them, what their emotional reaction to things that used to maybe make them feel a certain way is starting to be numbed. They want to feel something. And the other side of that is that we can do this, and I think a lot of us, most of us would admit that we do this more often than not. We will get inside of our heads, which would ultimately be getting inside of your head in a way that not only is it you're in your head, but if it's not matching what the exterior is, it can almost feel as if you are wearing a mask, an invisible mask that only you see when you look in the mirror, only you feel when you touch it. No one else can see it. It's all internal. It's all internalized. It's all things that we build as a construct to get ourselves through the day. And it's not as simple as just saying, okay, I'm going to put on makeup, or I'm going to cover myself up with my, hoodie when I'm walking around. I don't want to be seen. It's different than that. It's not that type of mask. It's the mask of shame and guilt, and the mask of feeling not being worthy enough, of not having a sense of purpose. It's that mask that we wear when we feel like we're not living up to our potential. It's the mask that we wear that when we feel like we have wronged someone, or we feel like there's something that we are disgusted by in ourselves. It's that mask, and it's in our minds. It's that hideous mask that we see when we look in the mirror of the person we've created in our minds, and that's what we see. It's the same with our bodies. We see whatever it is our mind tells us is actually there. And that sort of thing can be something that will hold you back from happiness almost more than anything that could happen to you externally. There's things that people can say and do, and there's things that could disappoint you, and there's things that could send you in the wrong direction. But ultimately, if you're not happy within yourself, it is intensified one way or the other if the absence of that happiness is building up within inside of you. It could feel like a wound that is extremely difficult to even process, let alone face and heal. And the healing process of it is something that it seems so foreign when we're in the moment and we're trying to deal with the raw, pure emotions of feeling like we are a failure, feeling like life is continuously kicking us and we are continuously trying to dig ourselves out of holes. How can you find the happiness in that? It can be extremely difficult. But like every episode on encouragement for you today, I do not encourage you to focus on negative things when you don't have to. Even when the most horrible things are happening to you, the most horrible experiences are happening to you, the most difficult things to hear are coming out of the words of somebody's mouth that you love or respect. There are things within all of those moments that still can be bundled up and molded into positivity. I cannot stress that enough. It is something that if you focus on, you will be able to find a way to do it if you choose to do so. It is a choice. It goes back to happiness is a choice. And I have seen both sides of it. I have seen myself choose not to be happy. And I've seen myself choose to be happy. And I can see the clear difference in between each choice. Each choice comes with its own set of circumstances. It comes with its own set of struggles. It comes with its own sets of victories. When you choose unhappiness, that doesn't necessarily mean you're unhappy. It may mean that maybe you're choosing a more difficult road for yourself at that particular point in time. It may mean that you're making a decision without even really realizing it that's going to lead you to happiness. That leads me to another point. Every choice that we make, we're not always guaranteed the outcome. So it's always, when it's a choice, you can choose to be happy, but in that moment of happiness could lead you down a road that is not so happy. But in that moment, it is a choice of happiness. It is a choice of you wanting to move forward with whoever, wherever you're at, or whatever it is you're doing. In that moment, you have chosen happiness. Now, that is a very, very dangerous thing for some people because their happiness may be something that is harming them. Their happiness may be a toxic relationship. Their happiness may be some addiction. Their happiness may be some type of a pathway that is going to lead them step by step towards someone, someplace, or some other thing that's going to continue to bury them in unhappiness. But in the moment, that choice looks more like happiness to them than you could ever try to explain otherwise to them. And that is why happiness as a choice has to come with some levels of responsibility and boundaries. There has to be some morals, some principles, some values attached to it. One of the pluses about spirituality and being in any type of religious mindset, type of a religious setting, having people you're aligned with that are religious or spiritual, is that you are inheriting good boundaries, morals, and principles. But that doesn't mean that you are displaying them. It's still a choice behind saying, I understand these morals and values and principles, but I also am making the choice to not apply these things to negative things in my life. Because that is the difference between someone who has healthy boundaries and someone who has unhealthy boundaries. It's the same thing when someone has happiness, choice of happiness, and that choice of happiness is actually something that is destroying them. But to them, hey, I'm happy. I'm smiling, right? Who are you to tell me that I can't do this thing? Who are you to tell me that I can't go to this place or be with this person? I'm choosing this because this person, place, or thing makes me happy. When somebody makes that argument, who is one to say otherwise against that person's argument? That is going to always be their default offense. You're taking away from my happiness. Even though we can say, how could that possibly make them happy? They're miserable. But that's when we have to take a step back as individuals and realize your happiness is not equal to someone else's happiness and vice versa. Someone's definition of happiness is completely different than your definition of happiness. The same way someone's definition of their boundaries is completely different than the definition of your boundaries. There's a respect that has to be there, but we also have our obligation to ourselves first. And that's where I always come to people with, if we can display within ourselves each and every day, we're able to wake up and smile, regardless of how you feel mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. If you can wake up and find a reason to smile, you will rub off on other people in a positive way. That is our duty. That is something we can control every single day. A smile, a positive attitude, and overall, even when we're down and we're not able to give it all every single day in a positive way, trust me, I know it's very hard. It sounds simple. Smile and be happy through it all. I'm not foolish enough to tell you that that is something that is sustainable over a long period of time without having days or weeks in there where you're just like, I can't muster up a smile today. And that's perfectly fine. If somebody tells you you need to be grinning like the Joker every single day of your life, no matter what, that's bullshit. You don't have to do that. What you do have to do is try to find within yourself some pathways that can lead you back to an example or a version of yourself that is like that. That's where we want to be. That's where we should be going each day. That's what we should be trying to get back to, is that we will get lost. We will find ways to get off the path. We will find ourselves with people who are not the best for us. We will find ourselves in places that are not the best for us. We will engage in activities and have things that we do that are not the best for us. But that's the point, is that we have to have some type of foundation, some type of a home headquarters, home base type deal within inside of us in our core that we can return to and say, no matter what, I know that the good stuff is right there. I've gotten lost a little bit. I'm not the happiest I have been. How can I get back to that place where I knew I was happy? And the only way you can do that is there has to be some point or some frame of reference where you can say, there is the example. There is the warmth. There is the sunlight that comes up every morning. Right there. I know right there, if I can get back to that version of myself as close to as possible, it gives me a chance. It gives me a chance to not feel like I have to wear a mask of someone who is not being genuine to themselves every single day to present this false narrative that I'm actually happy when I'm not. I don't want to pretend to be happy. I want to actually be happy. I don't want to force a smile. I want a genuine smile. I don't want to pretend like my life is going down the right direction. I want it to be heading down the right direction. There's no room for excuses in that. There's no room for or time to play victim in that. There's no room for you not to tell the truth about who you are and how you feel in that. If you did something wrong to yourself, we start with ourselves first. If you've done wrong to yourself first, if you can't come to some type of a compromise within yourself to even want to face this and say, okay, listen, I know I made a mistake. This is horrible. I know I've done myself wrong. How can I initiate the steps to try to correct this? If that is something that is hard for you, that is the first step. How can you face yourself internally? Because when you look in the mirror, the only thing you can see is the external. The only way you can really get into the internal is, I say, you have to really just stare yourself in the eyeballs like some kind of a person on a mission to literally look into their soul. Because that's the only way you're going to see yourself in the mirrors. You have to look yourself in the eyes and kind of externally try to visualize what you're like internally, which is why meditation is the best way of looking at yourself internally, because you can close your eyes and you see what you see. You deal with what you deal with. The demons that pop up, you deal with them. And daily, there's always a demon that pops up. Hey, you're like, oh my goodness, who are you? Where did you come from? What do you want? What do you got? And this demon may tell you, hey, listen, man, you ever thought about doing this? Go do that over there. And you may think for a second, that sounds like a good idea. And then reality starts to hit you in the head and you realize, well, if it's such a good idea, how come I haven't done it before? And then you may say, well, you haven't done it before because maybe you're afraid. And you ask yourself a question. It's like, well, if I was afraid, why am I afraid? Why was I afraid to do this thing before? And why am I so eager to want to do it today? And maybe it's because you need to do it. Maybe that demon's right for that little bit of a moment. Maybe that demon's telling you, hey, maybe you should go for that extra mile run that you didn't do last week when you exercised. Maybe you shouldn't do this, or maybe you should do that. And I'm using the word demon because really ultimately it's our thoughts. We refer to these things as demons and angels and because it's easier for us to understand the conscious level, the good and the bad, the angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other, the consciousness. Really what it is you're talking yourself in or out of good and bad decisions 24/7. Even while you're sleeping. And it's that conversation you're having with yourself internally that if you're not focused on what's happening with that conversation, it's developing the mask. It's almost like you're creating the mask by not acknowledging the conversations that are happening within your mind. The arguments that are going on within your head, the battles that are going on within your mind is creating that mask that you're wearing, that you may not even be aware that you're wearing half the time. If we can make it a conscious choice to say, okay, I want to be happy. How can I do that? Let's go inside of my mind. Let's figure these things out. This isn't woo-woo stuff. This is stuff that we do every day. If you have a brain and you're thinking and you can make decisions, these are things that you can easily say, okay, let me just stop and make the right decision for myself at this moment. 2 weeks from now, I may look back at it and say, maybe not the best decision, but in this decision, it's the next best right decision I can make for myself that leads towards happiness in a way that is not negative and will not harm me and others around me. That is the goal. Long-winded sentence, but means a lot. If happiness is the goal, if you can find positivity, it's not just about happiness, by the way. It's about positivity. It's about growing. It's about growth in a way where you are growing through purpose. It's not something that you're growing because you're just trying to get stronger for the sake of getting stronger. What's the reasoning behind it? What's the why? When we know that, then we can start chopping away at purpose. And then you'll start noticing things like happiness and that genuine smile and that fake mask that we have to wear sometimes to get ourselves through troubling times. It will fall off and it'll leave behind all the best parts of you. And that will be all people see. But until you can do that, you will be forced to wear that mask. I wore one for a very long time. It was ugly as sin. It was not a good mask. We all can laugh at ourselves and say that. We have all worn some very ugly versions of ourselves on our face, masks that represented us externally, but internally, we know deep down inside, it was not a true representation. It was not something that we enjoyed hiding behind. It was something that got us through what we needed to get through. It was ugly, it was rough, but hey, we can look back at it and say, you know, I'm glad I have pictures of myself. Because have you ever looked at a picture of yourself back when you thought you were killing it at a time and you was like, everything's going right and everything's great and I look great, and then you look back at it, you're like, woo, I really did not see myself the way I thought I did internally. We have all gone through our pictures on our phones even a year ago and looked at that and been like, whoa, I didn't realize I look like that. And it's not that you look bad. It's not that you were ugly. It's not any of those things. It's just you don't recognize yourself because the mask you were forced to wear at the time, you were forced to wear it for a reason and you had to go along with it and you were content with it because that's all you had at the moment. I'm challenging you to understand that if you're conscious of what mask you're wearing every single day, then you have a choice. That's a big exercise I do for myself, actually. I'll go back often and just look at pictures of myself for like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Not so far away where you physically are changed to the point where it's like, of course you look different. Just recent enough where you can still understand and articulate the emotions you felt in those moments if somebody was asked you, hey, what did you feel at that moment? You can look at that picture and say, I know exactly what I was feeling in that moment. I felt like this, I felt like this, I felt like this. And they'll say, okay, or do you think those emotions line up with your exterior and what you look like on the exterior? Is that picture a good representation of who you were internally at that time? And I will look at that picture and it's a good exercise to have because I'll write it down. I will write down just the emotions that I think I felt at the time. And a lot of times I have addressed those issues, but I didn't realize I had addressed them. When I started going into my mind more and started understanding what it took to actually put together a good day that is based solely around positivity. That doesn't mean you're not going to have altercations with people. You're not going to have bad days. Things aren't going to go wrong. It's just your goal for each day is to try to be as positive as you possibly can with as many different people as you possibly can, and not put yourself in negative situations, not have negative things happening to you as far as the things that you're not having bad vices and addictions and things like that. When you start piecing that together, you find that that mask drops, and the mask that you see now is starting it's not about the mask. It's about having the mask be gone in general. When you look at yourself and you're happy with what you see, you can look in your own eyes and say, I'm content and happy. There's a lot of work to be done. There's no end to this stuff, but I'm content and happy where I'm at now. And at least it's in a positive direction. Because there's nothing fun about looking at a picture of ourselves from a year ago, 2 years ago, and realizing that we were ultimately unhappy, but we at the time would have told everybody that's the happiest we've ever been. There is no reason you should have to do that. It's either pure, genuine happiness or it's nothing. And it doesn't mean, happiness does not mean everything has to go right every single day, that you won't have any issues. To me, my version of happiness is that, am I heading in the right direction? As long as I am, I'm happy. To me, happiness is about being grateful. Are the people, places, and things in my life serving me in a positive way? Am I aligned in a positive way with the majority of people, places, and things that are in my life every single day? If that is the case, then I am happy. Do I have the opportunity every single day to wake up and actually improve upon some area of my life that I feel like needs to be a focal point? If I have that option to do that, and I can do that, then I'm happy. Am I free to be able to speak my mind and do the things I want to do in my life without any restrictions as far as my partner goes, or my job goes, or my financial situation is concerned? If the answer is yes, then I'm happy. That's all it takes. It's very minimal. And I want it that way because I can build on minimum. I can't be at a maximum and keep building. At some point, it gets too heavy and it breaks. I like to build. I want to leave things behind me that are negative, but I also want to learn from them. Days that I'm unhappy sometimes end up being my happiest days because I learn more about myself. Why are you unhappy? What's making you sad? How can we fix this? What can we do to turn this around? Those are happy moments for me. Even though I feel miserable at the time, I know I can turn those into happy moments because it's the focal point aspect. It is the aspect that I know that if I'm unhappy, I am externally wearing some kind of a mask to cover up the fact that I'm not happy. And happiness is a choice, and happiness starts with each and every one of us internally. And if that is what you strive to be, if you really want to be happy, you would do whatever it takes every single day to make sure that that is the case. You're not going to allow negative people in your life. You're not going to allow yourself to be engaged in bad conversations with people who do not know how to communicate. You're not going to allow yourself to be put in situations where you're going to fail over and over and over again and not get anything out of it. You're going to find healthy pathways to success. You're going to find a small victory in everything that you do. You're going to find reason to be happy and grateful in every person that you meet. And the ones that you're not feeling like that doesn't mean you have to be mean or rude to them. You just are not interested in building upon relationships that aren't reciprocal. You're not happy being invested in any relationship that is built upon hypocrisy. You're not invested in someone else's unhappiness while they suck the happiness out of you like a vampire. You're not interested in that. That goes back to boundaries, morals, and principles. That goes back to you being someone that you know you can respect fully when you look in that mirror. When that mask is on and you start seeing a version of yourself that isn't so pretty, quote unquote, again, this has got nothing to do with physical attributes. This is not like you're wearing a mask because you're not physically attractive or anything like that. That's not what I mean by this. What I mean by the ugly mask is it's the internal ugliness within ourselves that is manifesting itself externally, and people can see it. And maybe others can't see it, but you sure as hell can. There's been plenty of times I've looked in the mirror and I've seen ugliness, and everyone else around me is saying, "Oh, you're such a good person," this and that. And I know deep down inside, I'm not that good of a person. Something's not right. I need to fix something. This was years ago before I had my awakening. It was what made me have my awakening, what made me want to pursue a different life that was built around positivity, because I had so many negative people in my life and I was in so many negative situations that I did not enjoy being in, and I had so many negative vices and things that brought me down and made me feel like crap, that ultimately at some point I was either going to wake up from it or I was going to die from it. And fortunately enough, I was able to wake up from it and understand that that ugly mask I was wearing that everybody else thought was good, I had to tell everyone, hey, this person that you see in front of you, actually, he's wearing a mask. He's not as happy as you think he is. He's not as strong as you think he is. He's not as smart as you think he is. He needs work, a lot of work. And I took it upon myself to make sure that I don't want people to believe that I'm happy just because I have A, B, and C and I live this place and I'm with this person. No. My happiness is going to come through and shine through based on true, genuine want to every single day not only help myself get better, but help other people, which is why I became a life coach. It's about helping other people benefit through your warmth, your strength, your power that you have within you, your gifts, your unique gifts that make you special and unique. The things that you gravitate towards, that you say, this defines me, that's beautiful. That's the stuff that makes you have that glow about you. We've all been around someone just like, there's something about them when they walk in a room, they just have that glow. They just have that it factor. And if you were to have a conversation with this person, you find out that they are genuinely happy. They're not perfect in any way, shape, or form, but they're continuing to work on themselves and they have no damn excuses. They don't blame other people. They just keep going every single day, trying to improve. And that's the goal. It's about every single day innovating yourself and improving upon yourself to make sure that you don't regress back into having to put back on that ugly, stinky, disgusting mask that we have to wear sometimes when life isn't great, but we have to pretend like it is. We don't want to pretend. We want to smile every day and have that strength, that genuine strength that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, we are going to smile. We are going to go through maybe a dark period that's not so great, but we're going to get over it. We're going to get through it. We're going to get over that mountain, over that volcano. And when we hit that valley again, we are strong. We are happy and we are genuine people. And that is the goal. And the better we know ourselves, the better we can silence our minds and actually get inside of there and start figuring out the whys, the hows of who we are, and how we really tick, and how those moments, each and every moment of our day, adds up to so much more. When we can really focus on that, that's when we know we've made it. That's when we know we can truly be happy. If no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. We rise and maintain balance.